Henry McClure Live. If you'll stick around with me to the end, the segue will explain what change we need to make in the community. Now, I'm telling you, from 10,000 feet, Chick-fil-A and Whataburger aren't going to change the whole universe and create a whole new economy for Topeka, Kansas. But God bless them for coming here. And God bless 911 Walnut. So I sold them the shopping center in 01 when I first moved back to Topeka. Okay, the Scott brothers. So they've been around. We've been around. We've had to suffer the demise of Bennigan's and the loss of that use. We lost the theater. No, they bought it with the vacant theater, but then we had Electric Cowboy, and then we had Wild Horse, and then we had Julie step in and try to do Wild Horse on a temporary basis. Gordman's over time went bankrupt twice, left us holding the bag with a lot of money from real estate taxes not paid. I couldn't get Bennigan's leased. Look at what happened out at White Lakes. But for Brett Kale to vote no today on this project, he needs to be replaced as a city council person. I'm serious. You guys got to understand how this works. I tried to explain something to him in the hallway, and he just snapped. He snapped. He went yelling. The chief and then another lieutenant came out and wanted to know what was going on. I explained to him. I wasn't being combative. You never get a phone call return from him, and ask somebody on city council if they ever get a phone call return from that guy. But what you've got to understand is there was no income, no taxes being generated, sales tax especially, from the Chick-fil-A site and the Whataburger. This was vacant. But here's what you need to know. That dealing with Benish, the engineer for the city, and I guess it's been very difficult. It's been very difficult dealing with the engineers on this project, the back and forth. And a developer also has to take responsibility for maybe some of the shortcomings of his engineer. But this is what I think as a guy that's been in the business for 45 years, is that Benish was then and still may be taking advantage of our good nature here in Topeka. Benish, as an outside contractor, consultant, charged the city of Topeka over $1 million. And John Hoffer, the car guy down here, he goes, "What in the hell are you doing?" I'm not sure that any of this was necessary. Not one whip stitch of it. Remember when we were kids? I was born in 59. Remember, you come out and you cruise the boulevard. You're not even allowed. We weren't allowed to use the history. We weren't allowed to use the history of White Lakes as far as the traffic that it generated. So you take the boulevard today with the state of the state, This might be the slowest it's been in years. Think about when Sears was here. Think about Penny's. Think about White Lakes. White Lakes was Northeast Kansas' premier shopping center. But none of that history was able to be implemented and for the need for the traffic study. And if you've got the car dealer saying it's wrong to do all this, and so the developer, look, he had to give away some of his incentives to lure Chick-fil-A and Whataburger here. The system, and now here's the segue. This is where we really go to it. We need to have a uniform development agreement. So the people that come up like Miss Trimlow, she's a smart lady. And, given the opportunity, she might be able to put together a development agreement. But what if we just had one uniform one? Think of the 720 people we have in the real estate business with real estate license. Think of the relationships and the network. If we just utilize, somebody knows somebody. Everything can't go Topeka. Everything can't go through the chamber. Everything can't go through the NGOs. It's not fair. But we over-consult ourselves to death. Think about this. From the original deal that we made to get these here, there's an additional $1.7 million. And so, for whatever reason, it shouldn't be just the developer to do it. But for district, for the east side of the community, I mean, we need to have some nicer things here. Not everything should go out on Wanamaker. I mean, we need to get a first watch out here. So that's why I want to use my skills and experience to do a development agreement on California Crossing that's neutral, that anybody can pick it up. So if somebody has got an idea, it's already gone through the process. We can say, look, we don't need a traffic study if we don't add more gross leasable area. Hello, Greg. You're probably at work. Greg Schwartz is one of the hardest workers. But Greg would even like the idea of a uniform development agreement. But because here's the point. All we should have to do as developers is follow state law. There's already a state law that regulates TIF, CID. That's it. And all you do, the planning department, Rhiannon and crew, hey, they followed state law. That's enough. Pass it. We don't need a but-for test. We don't need to give Jeff White with Columbia Capital a nickel more. Just agree and the contract follows state law. You can't have anything more than the state would give you. Because then it takes it away from whose last name it is. One thing I was surprised, I thought Jim Klossman was actually going to have in writing a proposal for the rest of his lots in Lawrence Bay. I was telling him about this idea of the Uniform Development Agreement. He appeared to support it in what happened to be a very robust conversation, as he said it. Hey, Brett Kale, I'll buy you a Whataburger and a milkshake. But I'm serious. We need to get somebody to replace Brett Kell out in District 5. I mean, if he was a really great salesman, he might have swayed the vote. But from what I understand, some of the people I talk to on city council, he doesn't even return their call. Hell, the mayor and I talk more than him. Anyway, this is not the best thing since white sliced bread, but it's good for Topeka, and we made every effort to make Topeka better and let the market decide. I appreciate the vote tonight, and I'll tell you who I really need to be thanking is mainline printing. Because without mainline printing, going back there, I never would have been able to buy the people out of the ground lease that Mace Siegel and Dana Kay made in the 60s. You know, I was talking to John Parker at Mainline, and he told me that February, between these two operations, they had the best year Mainline has ever done. And we got a lot to work. We have a lot of work to do in Topeka. I mean, literally. I was talking to a developer friend of mine. You know, if we just went through and looked at different areas, say, you know, I'll fix that, let's fix that, but create a uniform development agreement so the guy that owns it can come forward and do something easier. Hire guys like Greg Schwert. You know what I'm saying? Greg, we're trying to get you some more jobs, buddy. I just don't want you to put that saloon out at Ward Mead. Other than that, I love you. You're a good man. Somewhat. Hey, Spencer, thank you. Thank you for your vote today. And thank you for the nice conversation in the hallway. You're a civil candidate. And James Bolden filed for mayor, and so we got a full slate of people that want to be mayor in this town. But we got to have more people come forward in some different districts. That's all I got tonight. I might go down to the hotel and make another telling video. Because I like the props behind, you know. You're like the man on the scene, you know. It's kind of nice. It's sprinkled a couple of times. I don't think the heavy rain's coming down till 2. Y'all have a good night. Henry McClure Live, running for mayor. Running for community service. That's what it is, right? I think the new voting thing will work out. The bugs will work out, but thank you again to the city for helping this happen. I hope you come out and spend some money. Thank you. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.